Welcome to episode 103 of Sport SA Daily Diary. Today we're chatting to South African squash player Makgosi Peloakgosi. Good afternoon, Makgosi. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us today on Sport SA Daily Diary. It's lovely to chat to you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me.
No, it's a pleasure. So from the picture behind me, we can obviously see that you're a squash player and you've represented South Africa, which we'll get into. But take us back to the early days of Makgosi, sort of growing up in Pretoria. I believe you were more interested in ballet, gymnastics and swimming than you were specifically in squash.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I really started early just doing loads of things. The ballet started because my sister was a dancer. And obviously when you're younger, you always want to do what your older siblings do. So that's what I did. And then gymnastics, I felt that was the easy transition. I did swimming, I think for my fitness and also just to try different sports. But naturally, I think I was really into ball sports, the whole thing. So I also did hockey, tennis, netball. So I played all those things and then eventually I ended with squash. So that was the last sport I ever tried.
And how did you actually find squash? Because I believe you had a love for tennis. But yes, it's similar, but it's quite different in terms of how you hit the ball and those sort of things.
Yeah. Well, as I was playing tennis, I think my tennis coach left and then a new one came and I wasn't the biggest fan and I'm incredibly stubborn. So I was like, well, on to the next sport. And my one friend invited me. She was like, oh, come try some squash, you know. And I started at the squash court and I haven't stopped.
And was it love at first play, I suppose you could call it?
I don't think initially. I felt like it did help that I could hit the ball. That could help. But I think it was after my first tournament that I won. I was like, oh, I'm not too bad at this, so we can just keep pursuing it. I only decided with squash, I think, in grade 10. So, okay. Yeah. So.
And you say you kind of found out that you were quite good at it when you won a tournament. Tell us a bit about that tournament. When was that?
I was about 11. Yeah, I think I was about 11. And my squash coach at the time was like, I think you should enter this tournament just to see how you can do, basically. And so I entered. It was also a mixed tournament because there weren't many players at that time. So it was boys and girls. And somehow I won. I don't know how, but I pushed through and I won.
And Makgosi, tell us, what is it about squash that you enjoy? It's very sort of stop and go. It is quite fast paced and hectic. You need to be pretty fit for it. But in terms of the game itself, what is it about it that really makes you enjoy it?
I think it's just all the challenges that come with it. You know, a lot of people think you just hit and run all the time, and it's really not that. It's your technique, it's your mental ability on court, it's how well you can move. It's even, you get so many different players who play so differently. So it's really just trying to adapt and survive. And it's the challenge that comes with playing every single match, basically, yeah.
And I believe sort of growing up during your school days, Serena Williams was a role model for you. Was there anyone in the sport of squash that you looked up to as well as a role model and someone that you wanted to mold yourself on?
After I learned about her, because I think when I was young, I wasn't really focused on who was in the squash world. I was just trying to play the sport. But I think once I learned about Sioli Waters, I think I was like, wow, okay, there's someone like me who's actually playing. She managed to get to world number 28. And I was like, okay, so we can do this. We can get to the top of the game.
Yeah. And you've represented South Africa now at the World Junior Championships. Tell us a bit about that moment. It must have been quite a special one for you and your family.
It was very nerve-wracking, I'm not gonna lie, because you have all these dreams and aspirations, and um, I had traveled all this time, but I think the World Champs is just, it's a whole other competition on its own, and it was very scary, but I just rose to the occasion and just enjoyed it for what it was.
And the quality of the players at a tournament like the World Champs, was it much greater than anything you'd been used to before?
Yes, it was incredibly high. It was just seeing these young, talented players, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think I lost my first match, but I think I tried everything I did, um, never gave up, and I got better. Whilst I was playing the tournament, and yeah, really enjoyed it.
Because we've heard from a previous squash guest that Egypt is very strong in terms of squash these days.
Yeah.
Where did you find your toughest opponents were coming from when playing at the World Champs?
Um, the English players were actually very strong. The English players, the three that I played, were very talented with their racket skills, and I hadn't really encountered that, just that touch, their awareness on the court. Yeah, I think they were easily my toughest opponents in the tournament.
You must have been used to the English players then, or you're certainly used to them now, because you were studying in the UK, studying forensic science. That's quite sure.
It is a degree, yeah. Yeah, I've always wanted to do, I think, forensic pathology, but then I saw how long it would take to, practice, and I thought, okay, let me just do something adjacent. But I enjoyed it, so.
And Makgosi, 2020 was supposed to be a big year for you. I suppose it's been a disappointing year because you were going to turn pro this year. Tell us a bit about how you've been feeling this year with lockdown and COVID and the disappointment of having to put on hold your professional squash career.
Yeah, I think from last year, because I was injured, so I'd taken a lot of time for my rehab. I think I'd taken about 6-7 months just to make sure that when I was going to be on the tour, my body could hold up and everything. So I felt like all that patience and all that time taken just kind of put a damper on everything, because I was like, okay, you're going to get into things, you're really going to start moving up and making some moves, but we're here now, so.
And talk us through, what are your ambitions for the near future in terms of squash and being on the court?
My near future is definitely to break the top 5 in SA properly, have good wins consistently. And then I feel like once I have that base, I want to try and base myself overseas again, just mainly to be closer to tournaments. Because a lot of the competitive and big tournaments are, over, up north. So yeah, that was really what I wanted to do.
And your mum and your sister are sports lovers, more on the cricket side though. But your gran is a tennis lover. Has she moved onto the squash side now?
Unfortunately, she's passed away.
Oh,
But yeah, I think she was getting used to the idea. I think she always wanted me to play tennis. But she was always proud of me. She was always telling me, she wanted to come see me play. And so, yeah, she loved tennis, but, So.
And Makgosi, you've had some special moments in your career, playing at the US Open, obviously playing at the World Champs. Has there been one moment specifically that's been the standout for you?
Yes, actually, it was that national. I've spoken about this. It was the nationals where I played so early in the quarters, and I played out of my socks that day. I felt like I gave everything I had. I played the shots when I needed to play. I never gave up, and I just put in a really good fight. And just having all those people around me and everything, I just felt like, yeah, for me, that was a really, really good moment, because like it gave me so much more motivation to keep going. Because I feel like when you're young and you just have a really tough match against better, older players, you can lose your focus, you can lose everything about it. But I really, at that point, I was like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah. And you mentioned you took a while to find the sport of squash. You tried a few others. If you had to give advice to a young up-and-coming athlete, whether it be a squash player or another discipline, what would you sort of say to them, having you yourself been through many sports to find squash? I mean, I think it's a great learning to be able to try many disciplines before you actually settle down with one.
I think that's probably my best advice, is to try as many things as you can, because you might not even notice it, but some other sports will help with, the sport that you choose in the end. So for me, I felt hockey was really big on me keeping up my fitness. It has similar movements to squash, so even if I didn't play hockey anymore, I had that base already to just, step up my squash game. So I felt like, I feel like just try as many things as you can, and don't shy away from anything. You might be good at it, you might not be, but, it's all the learning that's important.
And you mentioned your strength sort of came from hockey. What is your strength on the squash court?
For me, is my racket skills. I'm very focused on my touch and my skill and what I can do with the ball, because I've never really always been the fittest person, but when it came to my ball skills, it's such a good thing to have in the back of your pocket, especially if you're having a bad game. Whenever you need it, it can come out at any time.
And Makgosi, away from the squash court, I believe you enjoy playing a bit of the piano, you like to read a book, you DJ a bit?
I do. I started learning this year with my brother. I felt like it was a good little hobby on the side, just to get away from all the stress and everything. So yeah, I love the piano, and I've been enjoying the DJ just for some fun. Yeah.
It's quite a difference, sort of playing the piano and DJing, because your music sort of genre must be very wide. It's from sort of classical to whatever it is that you DJ.
It is different, but in the end, all music just makes you feel different kinds of ways. And I think music in general just keeps me going, keeps me balanced, and so I enjoy all of it.
Awesome. Makgosi, it's been fantastic chatting today on Sport SA Daily Diary. Thank you for your time. Hopefully this lockdown and all the sports will get back to normality very soon, and we can see you back on the squash court representing South Africa in the Senior World Champs.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Look out for tomorrow's episode of Sport SA Daily Diary, where we chat to a young swimmer who's dominating the butterfly scene here in South Africa and looking to do the same abroad.